Hey, there we are.
Oh, and welcome to BitCast. We're doing this on Facebook Live right now, so we're just going to check and just wait to make sure that we sound good and sound's coming through. So 1 second, just going to do this awkwardly on my phone while we check it and make sure it's good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we sound good. We sound good. All right, guys. Well, if you are tuning in, thank you so much for doing that. Remember, this is BitCast, so I'm going to do my normal intro, and we'll go from there. I'm not used to doing this live very often. What's up, guys? Welcome to BitCast, episode 55 for the week of April 8th, 2018. I'm your host, Jake Martin. In the studio this week, we have Landry Smith once again.
Hello, everyone.
And Cameron Betts.
What's up, guys?
Oh, man. And before we jump into the riffraff of the week, Landry, last time you were on the show, I did something terrible. I forgot to introduce you, and I apologize.
Well, no hard feelings, man.
Well, I introduced
the time
you. I just didn't
now.
give people the time, like stuff to know about you, you know?
Right, absolutely.
So, we are going to learn a bit about Landry today, and the first thing being your favorite game and why.
Favorite game and why? My favorite game is Donkey Kong Country, which is kind of a left field answer. I think it's kind of divisive. Some people don't really like it, but I remember going to Blockbuster in 1994. I was 7 years old, and there was a competition going on, and they had it's basically like Donkey Kong Country, but you had a high score that you were trying to attain.
Right.
So every bad guy you killed, every banana you collected, every
the Kong letters. I remember those.
yeah, absolutely. You'd get a little point score up in the top left corner.
Oh, yeah.
You got to play for 5 minutes, and it blew my mind. I had an NES growing up. I didn't play it a ton. Video games I haven't been completely hooked yet, but I did play a lot of Super Mario 3. But man, that was it. That was the thing that grabbed me, and so I got Super Nintendo for the following Christmas, and Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario World. Ooh. And from then on, I was sold platformers, and really I got into Zelda later, and just
Zelda was a game when you were growing up. Like you knew it was cool, but my mind could not wrap itself around the idea of Zelda. For a while, I was
completely agree with you.
I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm just gonna go walk over here. There's a key I need. I don't get it. And so
the first time I got Zelda, I don't even think I got to the first dungeon. I would always go to the opening screen and kill some people with my sword, and then I'd get bored and turn it off. But
this game sucks. I hate it.
Yeah,
it's
a phenomenal game. I love it now, but I don't think I really appreciated it until later on in life.
Those young brains.
Exactly.
So then, favorite movie.
Favorite movie. This is really tough for me. I'm a pretty big film buff, but if I had to narrow it down to one, which I don't like to do, I'd probably go with Lord of the Rings.
Ooh, good choice.
And I'm not going to single one out. I mean, I just almost consider them all as one.
The Hobbit, all the Hobbit ones too?
Not so much. I didn't really fall for those as much.
The original.
It got me into reading as well as movies, outside of animated films and stuff. So, and kind of sparked a passion for me in reading and film. So.
Oh yeah, dude. Lord of the Rings movies are so good.
They really are.
I never read the books.
Oh man, they're so good.
Yeah, I also have heard great things about the books, but just from a comparison, I always this is bad, but I compare Lord of the Rings trilogy to Harry Potter, just in terms of big books and then movies made after them, and I really feel like Lord of the Rings did such a better job with the movies, just in terms of casting and acting and scores. And
I agree with
stuff
that.
Like that.
I love the Harry Potter movies.
I'm a big fan of Harry Potter too,
but yeah, I think there's the Lord of the Rings movies are head and shoulders above those.
If you were showing a normie Lord of the Rings versus Harry Potter, they'd be like, Lord of the Rings is a better movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You hear that, Logan? Watching? Lord of the Rings is better.
I showed Hannah the original Star Wars trilogy first. Lord of the Rings first, and then I tried showing her original Star Wars trilogy because she'd never seen them before, and she was like, "These suck. These are bad movies." And I was like, "Oh no."
The original Star Wars trilogy?
Yeah, she was new to the whole thing, so for her, she didn't have any emotions towards Star Wars.
Oh my god.
I have an interesting take on Star Wars too, because I probably like Hannah didn't see that movie until I was 21.
Okay.
Somehow I just missed it in my childhood.
I know
my mom.
Who are you?
I know. Yeah, my mom took me to go see it when I was 12, but I fell asleep. So I don't know what was going on with me. That's the ripe age for Star Wars. But I mean, I really do like Star Wars, but I think there's a campiness there that you really have to grow up with it to appreciate it.
Yes. Yes, very much
I was
so.
sold from when I watched it the first time I was 21. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty awesome. I get it. But
Cameron's pissed right now. He is
Sorry.
salty.
Oh no, I could be. I'm not angry at all. Just a little bit.
No, it's fine.
Fair.
It's fine.
I understand. I mean, I've met plenty of people that never watched Star Wars, and I'm always like, just like how? Like, at no point in your life it wasn't on, and you didn't get. I don't know.
yeah, I finally did my homework, but it took me a long time. So.
Yeah.
What was the first one that you watched?
A New Hope.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I
all
got
right,
like the
gotcha.
DVD trilogy when they finally released it in widescreen, which took way too long. I
Yeah.
can't remember when they did that, but when they finally did, I was like, all right, this is the time. I'm gonna buy it. So
Gotcha.
Good
Yeah.
call. Good call.
yeah.
All right. Well, I respect your favorite movie choices. And then last, and this is kind of a tough one, favorite developer. So
Okay.
for all you normies out there, that's a favorite video game developer, somebody that a large publisher that makes video games,
Okay, and
Nintendo, stuff like that.
this one was tough for me. I have a lot of favorite ones, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Naughty Dog. I think I mentioned this last time I was on the podcast. Just their arc of creating games. They did like an incredible mascot platformer with Crash Bandicoot. And
I
that
love
was
how you say Bandicoot.
and that was
Bandicoot. I say Bandicoot.
Bandicoot. Yeah,
Bandy.
I'm probably butchering it, but that's like the obstacle-based platformer, and then they did like the exploration-based platformer with Jack and Daxter. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
with Uncharted 2, they just kind of blew storytelling out of the water. I think with video games and like it was like playing Indiana Jones in a video game. It was amazing. And then The Last of Us had so much more emotion and depth. And to date, I've never played a video game that has that good of a storyline in it.
I agree 100%.
Yeah,
There
so
you go.
That's great.
There you go.
It's a good arc.
You got the respect back from Cameron after you made
yeah.
the Star Wars
You redeemed
blunder.
yourself.
All right, fair enough.
So there's Landry. Landry, thank you so much for being on the show. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Today we'll be talking about video game news from the week and then also Ready Player One. So if you guys have seen that movie in the theaters, it's a great movie, but we are going to be talking about spoiler territory stuff. So if you haven't watched it, I would recommend leaving this after the news segment and then coming back after you've watched it so you'll enjoy it more. Or if you just want to sit here and have everything ruined for you, you can do that too. So let's jump into the news. I guess actually, well, before we jump into the news, actually, housekeeping. If you guys are listeners of the show or tuning in right now, be sure to go onto our BitBloggist.com page, check out our stuff there. Leave reviews if you want to on iTunes. That does a big lift for us in terms of getting noticed by people. Or if you want to share it with somebody who you think might like this, that's even better. And then I think drink of the show, if you didn't notice, Dos Equis. We're killing it over here with these. We only had 3, so it was like it was meant to be. And before we jump into the news, actually, what are y'all playing right now in terms of video games?
Start with me. I'm still on PUBG. I'm playing a lot of PUBG. And then I bought Far Cry 5 as well. So honestly, I have not had much time to play either one of those this past week and a half or so. But
Does somebody else have Far Cry?
I don't.
That you.
personally.
Somebody does.
Oh, I guess my question is: are you playing that with somebody else right now?
No.
Okay.
I'm playing solo. One of the guys that me and Eric play PUBG with bought it. It's actually Andrew Bennett's cousin.
Okay, cool.
Who lives in South Carolina. Anyways, doesn't matter. He bought it too, and I have not got a chance to try out the co-op. But honestly, I've not really had much time to play video games these past couple weeks.
I feel you. on that.
But
I feel
outside
you.
of that, there's nothing else I've been playing.
Cool.
I just beat Kirby Star Allies, which
What are your thoughts?
starting out, I really did not like that game. I had some friends over to play it the first night I got it. We did 4-player co-op, and there was a couple people there that were kind of experienced with video games, but not very much. I never played a Kirby platformer, and then me and my friend who are definitely platformer veterans. And for Kirby being such an easy game, I thought the controls were not near as intuitive as they should have been.
Nope.
It was really tough for the people who were a little less experienced with video games to pick it up and play. And I feel like Kirby's strength is supposed to be
It's
the ease of
easy.
access. Yeah. And they play it. I mean, when you're playing through by yourself, the game is so easy. You can literally just stand in front of a boss fight, and your computer allies will
Just kill
take
it.
care of everything for you. It's kind of ridiculous. So, I was playing through the main campaign, and I was pretty burnt out on it. I really didn't like it. But something awesome happens when you beat the game. Like a speedrun mode opens up, and you can play with any bad guy's ability throughout the entire campaign.
Oh, that's pretty
But
cool.
they're remix levels too. So I think it might be a little shorter than the main game, but the first time I ran through it, I beat in an hour and 20 minutes. And then you unlock all of the like little star ally characters that are kind of unlockable, like
Yeah.
Meta Knight and King DDD,
Yeah.
and which are really fun to play the game through.
Right.
So I'm really enjoying the extra game content, but you have to play 8 hours of just completely dull and boring content to get to it. So I don't know that I'd necessarily recommend it unless you're a diehard Kirby fan. But
It is like pretty mindless, just from what I've played so far. Like it looks good. Did you change around the controller, like the button layouts?
I didn't, but they've been bothering me. I mean, even now I've played
Okay.
it through twice, and I still always press A for jump, and like it messes me up.
I switched the controller layout around to where it makes more sense, where B is jump actually, and,
Okay, gotcha.
and Y, I guess, is the left button is your sucking abilities power.
Gotcha.
And then A, I guess, is I forget what A becomes after that, but it made more sense the way. It still doesn't feel good though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the controls are really, really difficult to grasp, and especially because it's different than every other Nintendo franchise. It doesn't make sense to me, except for maybe Smash Brothers.
Yeah, you have so many platformers that kind of adhere to this rule set, and then Kirby's just like, "No, we're gonna make this weird."
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're like, all right, cool. You could have done tap jump, and that probably would have been better, honestly. Just like tap jump with it, and then A and B
Right.
did something, and that was it. Well, yeah, I played a little bit of Kirby, but I just beat Celeste, which I loved. So if anybody out here is looking for a good platformer, actually, that's challenging and rewarding as well. It's not like so challenging that you can't beat it. Celeste is fantastic.
Totally agree.
And then I jumped back into Mario Rabbids, playing through that. I just got to the last place in that, and I'm playing through my backlog of games right now because there's not much coming out really this month. So
Kind of a dry season, other than Far Cry 5.
Cameron's giving me the eyes.
God of War.
Okay,
Oh, well,
this
yeah.
month. Sorry, in the past.
April?
Sorry,
Okay,
in the
alright.
past couple weeks, there hasn't been really anything that's come out for me to keep
Fair
my
enough.
Yeah,
attention
I am
on.
super stoked for God of War. That's
Same.
one of the ones I'm pumped about all year. So
God of War looks so good.
it really does.
Yeah, that'll be my game for April. So we'll talk about that when it comes out. All right, well, drink of the show we already talked about. So we'll be right back with the news segment. Stay tuned. And we're back. Well, if you're just listening to this episode during the live show, our internet went out. So now you're listening to a hard recording of the rest of the show. It's way less exciting. But we're still here. We're still doing it. We still sound good. And that's all that matters, I guess.
So true.
But anyways, so first on the list here, Amazon's Breakaway was canceled. So had any of you guys even heard about Breakaway?
Nope.
I hadn't heard about it until you sent me this outline, and I looked into it, obviously.
I didn't read the
What'd you
outline.
think of the gameplay? Did you look at it at all?
I did, yeah. I watched a little video of when they released it, and it looked pretty cool. It was like rugby, but like
Yeah.
a brawler as well. Like had some Rocket League vibes going.
Mm-hmm.
5-on-5.
They were going for like an esportsy kind of deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think they
And-
saw the success of like games like Overwatch and stuff, and they're like, okay, like we'll make something like that maybe. But it's funny they got so far along with this. Like the game looked like it was pretty polished by the time they had sent the video out of it. But let's read this little quote here. While we have developed many ideas and made a lot of progress, we also are setting a very high bar for ourselves. In spite of our efforts, we didn't achieve the breakthrough that made the game what we all hoped it could be. After a lot of soul searching, the team decided to focus on new ideas. So basically, this wasn't a good game.
Right.
They were hoping it was going to be fun, and it wasn't.
Well, one thing I did notice from the footage is they had 5-on-5, but they were like all gamer pros, and one team just completely wiped the other team out. It was basically a shutout. And
Yeah.
so I'm wondering if there were some balancing issues. It looked like they had a lot of like long range and melee concepts going on in like one little tiny field. I don't know that maybe it just didn't work mechanically at all. So
But there's been games like similar to this that have come out. There was the VR game for PlayStation. You're like piloting giant mechs, and it's the same concept. You're like slam dunking these like basketballs essentially into other team's goal. And this has been a game that's been around for a while, like in like Halo and stuff like that. It's kind of similar to like not capture the flag, but it's kind of the same concept. You're trying to get a ball and you can pass it back and forth to other people, and then you want to, or literally just basketball, basically. So what's interesting about this though is it's Amazon, right? And this is like their first foray into game development. and it didn't go so well. But what I also think is interesting is they didn't. I would have just published this game. You have so much money already. It is like, what are you going to lose by not putting it out?
Correct.
Right.
And
Well,
for them, it's all about image.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. They have so much money, and I'm sure they're going to continue developing games. So why? I mean, that would hurt your brand. I feel like from the outset. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, and they have so many like talented developers too that they brought in to like work on these games. And I forget what the actual. I think it's just called Amazon Game Studios or something like that to actually start building these games. They have some other stuff in the works right now, but me, if I'm looking at this, it's like we've already come so far in developing this game. Like, why not just license it out to some other publisher and like let them finish the game and just release it and try to sell it to somebody else who might want to use it? I'm sure they're looking into that as an option. Probably.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that, but
because like you have a game that's almost built at this point. It's
Right.
like, well, I guess we should just give it to somebody else. But it goes to show game development is hard. Like
absolutely.
you can think like you have the greatest idea, and it might be a really cool idea, but the further you get along into it, it just doesn't work out. Like the like stuff you're trying to build, it's just like this isn't really what I wanted.
And like you said, they brought in talented people from other studios who had proven that they could make great games. So, I mean, I don't know if it. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with their culture, but it's hard to strike gold, you know.
Mhm.
And maybe that's what they were looking for. Maybe they had expectations set so high that they were destined to fail from the beginning.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah, I mean, like they set a high bar for themselves in the beginning, like wanting to achieve this certain aesthetic or goal, and if they didn't get that, they're like, nope, we're not doing it. So, kudos to them, I guess, for pulling out and not making a bad game. 'Cause I think Miyamoto has a quote out there. He's saying, "A bad game is a bad game forever."
Right.
You know, I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why whenever he's on a project, usually he's pretty serious about it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Wii Music. But, you know.
We don't talk about that.
Right,
It's not really a
okay, fair.
game. It's more of an experience. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Well, then in that case, I look forward to what Amazon's going to put out.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's what they're going for, because there's a lot of game developers that just put out complete shite,
Yep.
and then we all spend $60 on it. And we're like, what the hell
And
is
they're-
this?
Kirby Star Allies.
And they've had some really good luck with movies. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
movies they produced. So
And original series too.
Mhm. Yeah,
Man in the
absolutely.
High Castle, phenomenal,
That is really good.
I forgot about Man in the High Castle.
so good.
Who's in that?
No one famous.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yep.
For some reason, I was getting that mixed up with Kevin Spacey.
But it's
as
the
the
Philip
person.
K.
House of Cards.
Dick novel, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
talking. I'm just gonna move this chair out of the way.
Have you read it?
I have not. No.
Use a history guy. You'd love it.
Yeah, I'm sure I would. I've read the only one I read of his is whatever Blade Runner is. I can't remember the name of the book.
Yeah.
It's something about electric sheep. But The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, also a great TV show from Amazon.
Good old Amazon. They own everything.
They're doing it.
Somebody who doesn't own everything but still made a lot of money. Niantic is having to pay out $1.6 million in Pokemon Go Fest lawsuit settlements. So if you read into this at all, Pokemon Go is a big deal. Everyone was playing it for a long time, and then it kind of just fell off the map for me, at least. But they've continued to support it and bring out new generations of Pokemon for each like different type of the year, and they had special Pokemon. I think right now you can catch Mew. I keep seeing ads for Catch Mew like everywhere. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. But they had this Pokemon Go Fest. I forget. I don't read the story enough, but I forget what the festival actually was at. But it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone got there, and because there were so many people that wanted to play this, the cell service just got shot because there was so many phones in the area that needed to get cell service, and it didn't work for anyone. So it was literally just like it was just a bust. Like no one's phones worked. It was just terrible. And so they already had refunded people. Like they gave some people some money, like $100, in like just random like settlement money for in-game currency. Like, hey, we're sorry about that. Like, here's $100 towards Pokemon Go stuff. And then the people that flew out there was like a whole bunch of people that flew out to this place. I'm assuming it was in California.
Yeah.
And they are finally saying like that wasn't enough. Like I had to pay a ton of money to fly out here for this, and it doesn't cover those plane tickets. $100 does not cover my plane tickets to California. And
Maybe
so,
they should have come back and said, I mean, you spent like $600 to fly out to California and play Pokemon. Like,
Yeah, that was a silly choice in the first place.
Yeah, kind of a stupid
this is
plan.
a bad idea. Well, I think maybe they were just thinking it was going to be people within the area of California. They didn't think that many people would come from out of the state.
maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, 20,000 people showed up to this.
That's a lot.
That is insane.
I have some friends that are into this game and they're diehard. Like everywhere they go, they try and catch Pokemon from different regions. That I mean, I've never played the game to be honest. So,
But trying to, I mean, like 20,000 people. Can you imagine that? Like but everyone's on their phones. Like everyone's just sitting here trying to catch Pokemon in the same area, or not catching Pokemon. They're all pissed that their phones don't work. So.
Andrew Goldfarb from IGN went to that, and he had a really good article. I wish I had remembered to look this up, but you can Google it and find it about his experience at that festival.
About how terrible it was.
Yeah, and I remember reading it. But so I've been kind of loosely following this story, but Niantic's worth like $3.6 billion. So
yeah, I was gonna
they're
say
gonna be fine.
I was gonna say this is probably not a lot of money for them.
Yeah,
I was like, they've made a ton of money off Pokemon Go. So.
I would love to know what they did at that festival. Then, if the phones weren't working, then
I think they had like live music, maybe,
okay, all right.
like some concessions, stuff like that. But all in all, just terrible.
Yeah, I think they advertised it as a legend, like a place where you could come and show up and you'd get a legendary Pokemon. It was like one of the 3 birds from the original.
But
game.
no one could get it to show up on their phone or something like that.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, I mean, look, there it goes to show. Technology sometimes lets you down, just like it did today.
Yeah, so true. Perfect example.
And then this is there was actually a bit more news in the past week, but this is the one I wanted to talk about because we're talking about Ready Player One too. But Spyro Reignited Trilogy got announced. It's coming this year, September 21st. So did you guys play this growing up?
So my younger cousin Reed, he had a PS1. I did not have any game systems growing up till I got the original Xbox.
Right.
So this was like the first video game I ever saw anyone play, like outside of an N64 or on a PS1, I should say. So I was super intrigued by it. It's the first time I learned what bosses were, and I was so confused by that concept. Whenever you said it's like I'm gonna go fight the boss, and I was like, they're like employed, like they have to go.
What is
he's
a
gonna
boss?
He's gonna go beat up his employer. You know, I mean, seriously though, I was so confused by it. But yeah, and I ended up getting into it. And I love Spyro growing up. Such a fun, just easy game.
Yeah, I never had a PlayStation 1 either. But I remember my friend had one, and I made a post about this when it got leaked originally because I was like, "This looks pretty realistic. I'm sure this is a real leak." But this came out in 1998, which apparently that's like when everything came out because like that's when Pokemon came out. There was
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time came out. Like just a big year for just good video games all around. So for me, just thinking about Spyro, I'm taken back to like nostalgia of sitting in a room with my friend playing this dragon game. I was like, what are we supposed to even do here? I'm just like headbutting sheep. I was like, okay, catching things on fire, and I loved it. I love the sound effects. I just loved Spyro was kind of funny and kind of like mean or whatever, and
yeah, he had that like just weird attitude. Like every mascot platformer always had attitude. Yeah, exactly.
It was PlayStation's role, or like PlayStation and kind of Sega. Well, Sega kind of started it, and then
That's
PlayStation took it over, sort of. Like, we'll make better mascots.
Right. No, I also played this with my neighbor growing up, and I loved it. It was just kind of cutesy fun. Really enjoyed it. Insomniac Games. First kind of game of note or trilogy of note before they went on to do Ratchet and Clank. And honestly, I feel like Spyro games weren't that great yet, but I think the remaster is going to do a lot because it's going to, like, they didn't have analog sticks back then.
Well, PS1 had analog sticks.
Yeah, did it?
Yeah.
No, I remember. Yeah, I guess they did. I guess mine growing up didn't because I got like first issue. So then they added it in.
What?
You'll have to look that up. No, yeah, when they first came out with the PlayStation 1.
You're a liar.
It's the truth, man.
I'm Googling this
100%.
Right
yeah, the analog stick came out with Ape Escape for that game, and that was released like 2 years into the PlayStation.
No way. I don't believe you.
I'm pretty sure that I'm right.
I don't believe you. I'm pretty sure there's been analog sticks on the PS1 all along.
No.
Dual analogs.
Nintendo 64 created that stuff.
Yeah,
the single one.
The single analog stick.
Yeah, and then PlayStation just made it a lot better.
With 2 analog sticks.
With 2. And also, it wasn't like the directional, I don't know, the Nintendo 64 controller is a relic in and of itself.
The C buttons. The C sticks. Oh my gosh.
See,
what the heck is that?
It's the truth.
I had no clue. Are you serious?
That's the original PlayStation controller.
I don't even remember playing that.
God.
Yeah. So
I remember the analog sticks.
When I played Spyro, there was no analog stick on my personal copy. So that's, I mean, it was very.
That's
very
why it was so
difficult.
hard.
Yeah, maybe that's why I thought the controls sucked.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Landry, thank you so much for that little blurb of wisdom.
Of course.
Cameron was like, "Dear Lord," he was right. That's I am truly flabbergasted right now. I did not remember that at all. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Oh wow. So this collection comes with Spyro the Dragon, obviously Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage, and Spyro Year of the Dragon, and then it'll have new graphics, sound, and it comes out on PS4, Xbox, and maybe Switch. There's been some rumors of it coming to Switch. I feel like it will come out. We'll just get it later, probably.
Gonna have to. I feel like it's gonna have to.
If they're bringing Crash Bandicoot to it,
right?
I don't doubt that this will come to it as well.
It'd be crazy not to. I mean, that's what that audience is, or that console is targeted towards that audience. So.
Insomniac's a third-party developer. They're not privy to any party, so they're going to make whatever they want to make, I guess.
Yeah, but I think Activision owns the rights to this again. It's same as Crash. They bought it from Insomniac, so now it's their property. So
so you know that Activision doesn't care about.
It's gonna be
exactly. Yeah, they're going to try and make money, but
yeah, they're not going to put Call of Duty on Switch, but they will put any platformer they own on Switch probably because it makes sense there. I mean, I don't know why they would.
Yeah.
Did you
I don't need Call of Duty on Switch.
Can I bring up a random news blurb just because we just said Call of Duty? I was reading through Reddit today, maybe, and I found something on the no. I was on my work computer and I get YouTube notifications, and it popped up for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, and I was like, oh my god, and clicked on it instantly. It's just some dude playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, but I was like,
he got you.
There's got to be some reason he put. So I ended up like Googling, obviously, and apparently there was some leak on Amazon's like Italy for an April 20th release date for Modern Warfare 2 Remastered.
Ooh.
Don't know if they've.
I feel like if it was April 20th, they would have been a bit better about letting folks know about that.
Yeah, I agree, but it was multiple websites had that same article though, so I. Waiting to see, but I know it's been in the rumor mill for a hot minute now. I mean, we're going on like a year at least. We've heard, and Black Ops 4 is coming out in October too. So which I give two shits about. I just want Modern Warfare 2 Remastered.
And didn't I see Battlefield 5 just got announced?
I haven't seen that.
There was like a picture for Battlefield 5 or something like that.
I hope so. That would be great.
It'd be really cool if they packaged Modern Warfare 2 in with the new Call of Duty Black Ops game, kind of like Far Cry 3 is playable with Far Cry 5 if you buy it with DLC.
Pretty cool.
I think.
Well, the only downside is I would hope that they'd also sell it separately because I think a lot of people were salty. They had to buy
freaking
the bad Call of Duty,
Infinity War or whatever it was called,
to get Modern Warfare, the original.
Oh,
Infinity
really?
Warfare.
I didn't even realize they did that.
Yeah.
So Modern Warfare 2 eventually will happen. We have to imagine
because
that was more critically acclaimed even than Modern Warfare, I think.
Yeah, I've actually heard a lot of rumors about this game, and I'm pretty sure they're going to sell it as a standalone package as well.
Okay,
Modern Warfare 2. So
that makes sense.
Because people were not happy about that. So anyways, we're going to jump into Ready Player One, which we all thought was pretty great. So stay tuned. Try playing Tony Hawk
with a D-pad.
I cannot believe that there was just a D-pad on the PlayStation. That blows my mind. I can't believe it. Oh, my goodness. Well, guys, like we said, we're going to be talking about Ready Player One, which we all saw. I saw last Monday, and Landry, you saw it this past weekend.
That's right.
So off the bat, just quick little news about this movie. It is so far just an opening weekend. So last weekend, it made $53 million in the U.S. and $128 million more from overseas markets. So doing pretty dang good in terms of making money. And it says it's Spielberg's most successful movie in 10 years.
Yeah, since Indiana Jones, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the Crystal Skull?
Yeah.
That movie sucked.
Yeah, it was real bad.
Wow.
Yeah, you sport that name, though, you're going to the top of the box office.
Oh, man.
Yeah, anything Indiana Jones will do well. But Spielberg, man, he really has had a dry spell here of just crappy movies coming out. Or not crappy, but just
Yeah.
For sure.
For a long time. And this was I was very nervous going into this, but I felt a little better about Spielberg donning it. Because I'm like, this is kind of more his realm. This is kind of what he's good at. This kind of like, not campy, but just different weird genre that he can kind of take on and make his own world out of. So
I thought it was like the perfect blockbuster. It was like a 2.5-hour theme park ride.
Yeah.
It was a long movie. It was a long movie. It was like about 2.5 hours. Yeah, right.
2 hours and 20-minute runtime, I believe.
Holy guacamole! That was a
Random
long time.
fact.
And that freaking dark theater, Cameron. Okay, so we went. Golly, so we went to go see it at the theater out in Eastridge, the old Rave,
Oh yeah,
which is
Used to
now
work there.
the Carmike. I don't know who bought
Yeah,
it.
it's Carmike.
It's a Carmike, yeah.
No, they're AMC now.
Right.
It
But
was
they
first
still
bought
got-
out by Carmike.
They've
and
still
then
got
bought out by
Carmike on
AMC.
the side of the building.
Yeah, it still says Carmike on the side of the building. One of the rooms that we were in is so dark. Like normally when you go into a theater, you can kind of see a little bit, and you can
Right.
kind of see your friends' faces, like with a light from the screen.
Nope.
I don't know what the deal was with
Nope.
this theater. I could not see crap. Like I walked into this theater and they were all sitting in the back row, and like we're on the back row, or like we're up here. I'm like, okay, cool. And so I walk up and I cannot see anyone's face. Like I can't see
man.
anyone's face. So I leaned down and like I was like, guys, and it was somebody totally different. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I like walked all the way around and sat down, thinking it was like maybe like one of Tom's friends. So like I sat down next to this guy and I was like, I looked over and he's like, I think your friends are over here. I'll just move. I'll go sit over there on the
I
other
forgot
side.
about that.
And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh man, that's great.
He's like,
Oh,
it's cool.
man.
I'm just here with my brother. We're fine. I was like, okay.
Whenever I got in there, and Tom had said where he was at, so we got in there and we just stood there like idiots for like 2 or 3 minutes, trying to find him.
Guys.
And so finally, I just sat down. I was like, I guess we'll figure out whenever Jake gets here. And so I was like, no, this is stupid. So I texted Tom. I was like, Tom, stand up. And so I just kind of looked around, then whoop, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, there he is. Okay, great.
That is like that's the hardest time I've ever had seeing somebody in the theater.
That's pretty comical.
Normally they have like the runway lights on the staircase.
They were
you
so
can just
weak.
see.
You
yeah,
couldn't
that's
see
wild.
anything.
They weren't on. Yeah, it was.
And
terrible.
the movie hadn't even started. Like, before the movie starts, normally it's a little bit brighter.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Nope, not this one. They like you to stumble through the dark and just be embarrassed.
That's a problem.
But anyways, it was a funny start to the movie, regardless. So,
Sure.
real quick before we jump into the spoilers, we are going to be talking about everything Ready Player One. So if you haven't seen the movie, leave now, unless you do want to listen to us talk about it. So, guys, overall thoughts. What do you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it. Yeah. So well, I wasn't sure we wanted to go first. Anyways, like I said earlier, well, y'all weren't here earlier. I didn't know much about it going into it. Only what I'd seen in the trailers, and I was intrigued enough by those. I mean, obviously video games and futuristic, and some sort of VR or alternate reality universe you can go into.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'd go for this. So overall, I enjoyed it. I really had no complaints about it because I hadn't read the book, so I had nothing to compare it to. Some of the actors and some of the acting was a little cheesy, like especially towards the end with that long drawn out ending.
Yeah.
Overall, everyone did a good job. I did not like the antagonist.
Yeah.
I forget what that guy's. He's in
The corporate boss guy.
yeah, he's in several things.
IOI.
He's kind of a dork though, I
Yeah.
think. So, but then that makes sense too because he was a dork. But, and then the only, yeah, no, I had no other dislikes besides that. I wish they would have spent a little bit more time in the trailer park. Maybe I
Yeah.
missed that part. I think I did miss a pretty significant part whenever they got captured. But anyways, I wish they went into a little bit more of the world
Yeah.
outside of the
Yeah.
VR
sure.
world.
Believe it or not, this movie actually had more outside the world than the books did.
Oh wow, really?
Than the book did, yeah.
Interesting.
But I have this article pulled up of like a bunch of random things that were different from the book because I read the book like 2 years ago, and so
Okay.
some of the things are still a little bit foggy for me. But what were your thoughts, Landry?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was incredibly fun. I think if you like fun movies, you're gonna really enjoy this. If you're the type of person that likes to like poke plot holes and things, there's definitely some easy ones here that can just like kind of collapse the whole movie in and on itself. But I don't really get into that much, so I really enjoyed it. And my one biggest complaint was like that dystopian world they kind of created around the Oasis. I thought was really cool, and it wasn't incredibly fleshed out, but to me it worked perfectly for what the movie was, and I had a blast with it. And everyone I took to see it, I had my wife with me and a couple friends who I was like, I think I'm probably gonna be the only person that likes this out of everybody, but they all loved it. So
Oh, good.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah, I saw it with so my wife And then I don't know if Tom's necessarily a big like nerd kind of pop culture guy, but
He probably is a closet nerd.
he seemed to like it a lot. And then a couple other folks I've talked to said they thought it was pretty good, actually. So just on the surface level, and I think that's one thing that this movie did well, because like the original, the book itself is very much rooted, and this is something interesting, and kind of I'm going to sound kind of snooty when I say this. So when it was first written, it was designed. It was written in a time where like pop culture and like video games weren't totally mainstream yet. Like not everyone was like just talking about how they're playing video games and doing all this kind of stuff. But now that's like literally in the last like 2 or 3 years, like that's really changed. Like there's been a huge wave of people playing games and talking about games, and Drake's online playing video games with
Thanks to Twitch.
yeah, thanks to Twitch and all kinds of stuff. So this movie, I think because Spielberg knew, and maybe not Spielberg, but a bunch of people that helped out with this, they knew that it was mainstream and like a lot of people knew these characters. They made it more of a game for just the everyday person, because pretty much everyone's grown up with video games. Movie. So like in the book, the biggest thing for me, like, or I'll talk about like just the overall thoughts. I thought it was good. I thought I enjoyed it, and I think it did as good as it could have done as a movie, honestly. There's probably a few things it could have done better. Like the writing was a little painful at certain points, but other than that, I think they handled a lot of the Oasis stuff, and outside world like building was pretty cool.
Some of the cringe-inducing writing was it almost worked because it calls back to like a lot of those 80s, like Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis, Back to the Future stuff. Like, I don't know, there's some really campy stuff in some of those movies, and it worked. I thought it kind of called back to that, so it was okay
that makes
with
sense.
me.
I didn't think about it like that, actually, like where it is like
because I mean, some of that stuff, I feel like you just almost have to be like, okay, we're going to reshoot this, and y'all can do better. But they didn't.
That's a director's life.
Yeah, absolutely. But
you guys sound like idiots. Do it again. Yeah. But the biggest thing for me was they really changed every single challenge in this game. So like where they get the keys, that was completely different than the books. Every single one was different.
Oh wow. Because that was like some of my favorite parts.
Yeah, they were awesome. But in the books, yeah, they were all different. In the first one, he has to play a round of D&D and then beat the boss at a game of Joust.
Okay.
And in this one, it was just a race, which was really cool too. Like in a DeLorean.
Right. The race sequence was awesome.
King Kong. But I feel like the catch of like just going backwards, like that'd be like really easy to see somebody else doing, right?
Right.
Surprised not more people jumped on that like immediately and like figured that out.
It looked a little difficult going through that course backwards. Like you kind of had to have some skill, but
I guess you have to race the whole
thing
backwards.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think about that. You have to race the whole thing backwards.
Right.
I was like, why couldn't you just like go backwards into it, then flip your car around and go straight?
A good point.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, my brain just works that way. I'm like, why isn't he turning his car around? He's like, oh, he's going backwards the whole way. Maybe he has to do that.
I think he had to. Yeah.
But no, I think Spielberg did a really good job of building this world. I think that's, for me, like I think some of the stronger moments in this are really hinged on how he built this. The slums, I think, is a really cool idea. And me being from Ohio, I just like that it's in Ohio. And they live in these like shanty towers of just RV trailers and stuff stacked on top of each other. I think that's a pretty cool idea.
Absolutely.
And I love that opening sequence where it's showing everyone like in their RVs, like playing different games.
They are.
Yeah. One girl's like strip teasing and stuff like that.
The giant woman who's it's like, wow, that's.
And the drone delivery at Pizza Hut, that's gonna exist in a few years.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I love I was gonna say the relatability to like where we're going in the future was kind of almost scary.
Mm-hmm.
With drone pizzas are a good point, but just in general, like everyone's kind of sucked into their device and into the world that they're not in. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't want to jump right to the end, but I think that's one of the things that I not really sure if I totally agreed with in the very end. Like, because he's like, all right, guys, we're gonna have these 2 days off where we're not gonna be in the Oasis and we're gonna spend time outside of here. But like, that's like where a majority of folks like. That's where their jobs are and stuff too. Like in the books, like everyone like makes money in the Oasis too.
Right.
Like, they all have lives in the Oasis and make money in the Oasis and like have things that they do that aren't just like game related and stuff like that. So that was the one thing where I was just like, okay, so as the new person of Oasis, you're just going to declare that 2 days Tuesday and Thursday, you're just not going to be
shutting down the economy.
I was like, all right, yeah, just millions of people aren't going to make money that day. That's a bold statement. Or billions, I guess, at this point.
Does that happen in the books?
No.
Well, see, I didn't realize that they were making real world money. Like I one of my things was I was wondering, like, what does this guy do for a job? Like, is this maybe I was thinking, Twitch pro gamer because he was very good at what he did. So that thought popped in my head. I was like, oh, he's a professional, but I didn't think that like everybody could make a living in there.
Yeah, that was one thing that they didn't hint at either. Is he to afford a lot of his gear and stuff before he got the really fancy suit sent to him. He like did a bunch of stuff with like paid endorsements and stuff like that. Like he would have like endorsements that he would like shout out or like be associated with, and they would pay him like for sponsorships and stuff like that because he was the first person to get the key. So everyone's like, oh, we want your name as a sponsor, and we'll pay you this.
I think they did allude to the fact that he was the one who opened the gate first or something like that. So
yeah, so after that gate, he opened that. Sponsorships came to him and like wanted to pay him money and stuff like that. But also, they didn't hint at like, yeah, he's good at the game, but really like what he was really big at was his head knowledge. Like you saw them kind of spouting like banter back and forth about like how they knew all this stuff, but like he really like there was a whole like bunch of like back dialogue about him learning all this stuff and hanging out with H in like their little like cool den, basically just like nerding out for hours and hours, talking about stuff, playing all these games, learning about. I don't even know the main guy's name anymore. I forget the main wizard's
McFly.
name. The main wizard's name.
The main wizard. Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right, Arceus, and then
yeah, I don't know.
It's Parzival, H, Artemis, and then Shaito and Daito, I think, or Shio and Daito. I forget their
Something
names.
like that.
But there's a lot of like context you don't get, obviously, because books give you more context.
Right. I kind of got that though, that he was like the lead on pop culture, because I mean he goes to the library and it seems like
no one else goes.
He knows, he knows his way around there, and he was constantly spouting off stuff left and right. It's like there's a reference every 10 seconds in that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they probably could have spent time on, but I mean, like, it's already a 2.5 hour movie. So,
true.
I mean, if you do much more, people are like, I hate this. This is way too much dialogue going on. Any like strong moments, anything that you like in the movie you thought was like really good?
Oh yeah, the one that
really
sticks
good.
out for me is when they go into The Shining. It's one of my personal favorite movies. So,
awesome.
and I mean, just spending like, I couldn't believe how long they stayed in there. I was like, oh man, it's gonna end in like 2 seconds. But no, they stayed in there for like a good 5-6 minute scene, and it was amazing. Mm-hmm. And it really got me thinking about like that was almost the film's weakness in a way, is that was the only time they really dwelled on one of the references and showed a lot of its strengths, and only showed a lot of its strengths. I mean, they didn't show Jack Nicholas, but
I wish they would have. That would have been
yeah,
crazy.
I'm sure they would have been. I mean, they would have had to pay him and
lot
stuff,
of money.
but still, I mean, that was so cool, and what they did with it was so great too. So
yeah, changed it up enough, and it looks like they used real footage for that.
I think so.
They superimposed like the CGI of them walking down the steps in that opening scene where it pans in the hotel lobby.
Yep.
Right.
And I was like, that looks like the original footage of this. I was like,
oh yeah.
Whenever the two little girls were in the hallway, that was definitely original.
Yeah, that was real. The bathroom.
Oh yeah, it's always terrifying.
Gosh, that scene has so much less impact if you've never seen The Shining.
Yeah, probably.
Because you just don't get it. You're like, what? what's going on? And it's like, oh, well, you need to watch the movie to know why this is creepy or like why it's scary.
Yeah.
Right.
How about you, Cameron? Any like strong moments?
I thought, a moment that really kind of moved me, and I don't get moved by many movies, is whenever he finally finds the Easter egg and everything, and then they go into God, what was the guy's name?
No one knows his name. Just the
guy who created the game. What is his name?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I keep forgetting his name
It's
now.
something with an H, like hair.
Yeah, you keep talking.
Anyways, they go into his room, and it's him there as a child, and they're talking to each other, and he's basically hinting at how he wasted his whole life creating this video game.
James Halliday,
thank you.
And Ogden Morrow is his co-creator.
Yeah, and so he's hinting at I wasted my whole life. I didn't seek true love, blah blah blah, and of course these are feeding back to the challenges And at the very end, he asked him whether or not if he was actually what's his name? Oh my God, you said James Halliday,
Yeah.
right?
Halliday, yeah.
And he said, "What did he say? Yeah." And then he said, "Well, is he dead?" And he's like, "Yeah," or something like that. I don't know. I just thought was one more powerful.
Yeah.
moments in the movie.
One thing that I saw that was really interesting is this game, this movie reflects, or it's kind of very similar to Willy Wonka in how it's set up.
I could see that.
If you think about it, like
Yeah.
if you really think about what they kind of go through, there's this limited event that people can try to qualify for, and they get in, and then once they start getting in, they have to like complete these tests and stuff like that Willy Wonka's putting them through to see if they're worthy of taking over the Oasis,
Right.
or if
Chocolate Factory.
Chocolate Factory. And at the very end, there's the very last test where he's basically like, all right, here you go, it's yours, but Charlie doesn't want it. He gives it back, and he's like, you can have it, sir. And he passes essentially. He's like, all right, you can have the factory. And then this one is the same concept. It's
Right.
like, here's everything you can have. And he's like, no, this doesn't feel right. I don't want it.
Right.
So I thought that was really interesting. But something you mentioned, Landry, is interesting. Is this movie had a ton of moments where it was just flashing a bunch of like nostalgia in front of people, just showing you something really cool, like the Spartans, charging in, and like just a bunch of like the Iron Giant, and there weren't a lot of big video game like references I was hoping for. Like there was, Halo's pretty huge.
I thought the Gundam T-Rex fight was incredible. That was
it was
probably
pretty
my
great.
favorite fight scene in the movie. That was unbelievable.
Do you guys ever watch Gundam growing up?
Oh yeah.
I didn't.
Oh man, yeah, just like when he like flicked back and like the little like shine thing on his, like just like the anime, like when the opening thing, I was like, oh, that's sick. That is nasty. I just thought that was really cool. The whole battle scene really, I think, was really fun just as a whole, because you do get all those characters in one place, and there's just a bunch of crazy stuff happening. Like I'm trying to keep up the entire time, like see like references for like different characters. I feel like oh gosh, somebody I was talking to, a guy at work, he went and saw it 3 times so he could catch all the references from different characters and see how many he noticed throughout the movie. He said there was so many different like video game character references or pop culture references.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's got to be at least a couple hundred in there, because I picked up on quite a few myself, but I know I don't know like a ton of 80s pop culture, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they had some ones. They had some newer. They obviously tailored this as well for like newer audiences. Like Overwatch, Tracer was in there. You saw her kind of pop in for a second. I wonder like what that conversation was like when Spielberg or the people that had to get licenses for this were like, okay,
Who do we choose?
we want to put your characters in this game, and they need to be recognizable, and they're going to be on the screen for this long. Or how long do you want them to be on the screen for, essentially?
I wonder how much they paid Bungie for or Microsoft, granted, for those 10 seconds that those Spartans were on the scene.
I don't know, but I love like how they showed the real world clip of the Spartans running through the battle scene, and then like in the game, it looks so much more intense in the game. Like what? That's one thing I was confused about. Like they have these like fancy like track suits that they can run in place with, and like it translates to the game. But there was people like running in the streets with their visors on and stuff. I was like,
that's dangerous.
That's a way to get hurt really fast.
It made me think Pokemon Go.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of we're heading that direction essentially. Also, this movie was a bit more mature than I thought it was going to be in like certain parts and stuff like that. There was like, it wasn't like super mature, but just like in the way that like they go to like the dance club, and like he has his like suit on, and she like rubs all over him. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, we're just gonna, all right. I mean, that's
Actually didn't see that sequence at all. I went to the restroom during that.
the dance
the
scene.
club scene. So
That's when it all fell apart, man.
yeah.
That's when he told her he loved her. made a big mistake.
I did walk in right when he said that, and I was like, oh,
How would you do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that, and I think just I was a little nervous about the CGI aspect of this, but what did you guys think of that?
I thought it was great.
That was fantastic.
I mean, I think because you're stuck in a CGI world,
Right.
It's
hard to disappoint.
It looks okay for
one of the worst CGI shots that I felt like was the shot of the Cleveland skyline with the IOI building, and I was like, who approved that?
You mean Columbus?
I thought it was Cincinnati.
It's in Columbus, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both shitty Ohio
Yeah.
cities.
Okay. All right.
um,
Ohio's a great state. You don't say that. But anything else, guys? I mean, like,
For a weaker moment for me, I was just going to throw because I was thinking about it. Whenever IROC, obviously he's kind of
T.J.
prominent.
Miller's character.
Yeah, he's prominent throughout the movie, and then whenever he dies, I was kind of hoping they would like flash to some fat loser in his like mobile home, like losing his crap.
Yeah, I wish they would have showed him in real world.
Yeah. Like I was really disappointed by that.
Man, I'm a TJ Miller fan. I had no idea that was him.
Oh yeah, dude.
The whole time I was like racking my brain. I was like, and I'm watching Silicon Valley right now. And I have no excuse for that. I should have recognized the voice immediately.
Like, that voice sounds very familiar.
He was hilarious. I really enjoyed that character.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. I wanted to know who was behind him as well.
Well, and like I love he got like whenever he would walk up to him, he was like, "How are you?" And he's like, "My neck's like really hurting. Like, I think I need to go to like a chiropractor or something." He's like, "No, I don't care about that." He's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, he had a cool character, but yeah, I liked how he was kind of running away, like when he like got his arm like shot off and stuff like that. Just like trying to like collect his coins, like falling out of him and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean I think Ready Player One, if you're a fan of pop culture and just a fun movie, it's definitely entertaining. I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking from a storytelling standpoint, but there's enough there that's better than a lot of like the just big budget movies that I've seen out there in a while.
Did you guess that, or did either of you guys have a guess that Ogden was the librarian dude?
Did not, because that also
No, I
wasn't in
didn't
the
realize
books.
That was a good surprise for
That
me.
was a nice twist, I thought.
It
made
was.
sense.
So in the books, Ogden is actually the person who's kind of controlling like the Oasis, obviously, but he's also he's kind of playing as Halliday for a little bit there. And so when they actually, I think when IOI is chasing after them, they find rest at Ogden Morrow's house, which was kind of cool. Like he kind of takes them in, like protects them, and then like lets them use his own like Oasis like fancy
Equipment.
tech, and like lets them finish the game essentially.
Gotcha.
So yeah, because that whole escape sequence is actually pretty similar, where they're running around in the van, but they end up at Og's house, and it's like a big reveal that like he's there, and there's this whole conversation going on. But
I really thought IOI was the police force the entire movie.
Yes.
So when the police force came in, I was like,
wait, what?
What? Why haven't we called the cops before?
That is one thing I meant to ask you about after we got done with the movie, because I was super confused. I thought they were like the government. Yeah, and then whenever the Cincinnati, Columbus, whatever police showed up, I was like, oh.
Yeah, the IOI is just a big business that they want control of it so that they can obviously just profit off of having the Oasis.
Right.
And it's funny because like they set the timeline. I forget how long that the egg's been available for people to get and control the Oasis, but like you saw what they were doing with trying to have people win these games, that giant teams. Like you would think after that much of a concerted effort of having that many folks like trying one task over and over and over again, like they would probably get it, but no. It takes one person just going, I want to drive backwards and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what we'll have to say about the movie. You guys got anything else?
It was a lot of fun. I recommend it.
Go see it if you haven't.
Go see it, yeah.
But if you have,
If you're watching this and you haven't seen it, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So.
let us know what you thought in the comments on this in the YouTubes, or if you want to listen to it on the podcast, you can just tell your friends about it. But unfortunately, that is the end of our podcast. Remember, BitCast is a weekly podcast that covers most things video games and pop culture. Not weekly because I missed last week, but I got sick, as you can still kind of hear me recovering from that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Jordan.
Sorry the live situation didn't happen, but
That's okay.
What can you
sometimes
do?
it just happens. It just happens. Go to bitbloggist.com to check us out there, see what we've got going on. Be sure to follow BitBloggist on Twitter or Instagram or the old FB. I'm more active on Facebook and Instagram, so I would recommend those two probably. Twitter you can disregard. Be sure to send emails or topic suggestions to bitcast@bitbloggist.com, or you can go to our Contact Us page and submit one there. Until next time, this has been BitCast. Thanks for tuning in. Talk about some stuff. I kind of said talk about some stuff instead of to talk about some stuff, but that's how it works.